اليوم هو الذكرى 70 لتأسيس الأمم المتحدة، وبهذه المناسبة نستضيف ببلاتو انترفيوز المنسق الخاص للأمم المتحدة في لبنان السيدة سيغريد كاغ. أهلا وسهلا فيك وشكرا على تلبية هذه المقابلة. بدنا نتحدث عن الأزمة الإنسانية الكبيرة اللي بيتحملها لبنان بجراء هذا اللجوء الكبير. في أكثر من 1,070,000 لاجئ مسجلين بلبنان. العدد طبعا هو أكبر. سنسأل عن مدى استعداد الأمم المتحدة للمساعدة عبر المفوضية العليا للاجئين، خاصة أنه في كلام كثير أنه في شح بهذه المساعدات السنة الجاية، وأيضا كيف يؤثر غياب رئيس جمهورية على رأس البلاد بدور لبنان والمساعدات اللي هي مرصودة للبنان. هل الفراغ يؤثر على كل ذلك؟ سأبدأ أيضا من الوضع الأمني، وهل من مخاوف على الاستقرار في لبنان. Thank you again, Ms. Sigrid. This is the UN 70th anniversary. There is a joke that circulated a lot on social media in Lebanon about the job of the UN Secretary General. The joke says that all he has to do is raise concern and express regret. That his job is the easiest in the world. So I would like to start by asking you, do you have concerns right now on the stability of Lebanon?
I don't want to build on the joke, of course, but I think starting with indeed the space and in a way also the sadness that the joke also reflects is indeed, I think, a level of frustration or a perception of inability or a road not yet traveled by the international community when it comes to protection, human rights, when it comes to the lack of progress. And we hear that also very often in Lebanon. Of course, when it comes to issues of stability, there are a lot of achievements, but for me, the UN is about we the people, so they're mostly Lebanon's achievements with a little bit of help from their friends, be it member states or the United Nations. When we look at stability, security in the south, we've seen since 2006, with the exception of January this year, an unprecedented period of calm, thanks to the LAF and support and active role of UNIFIL. Eastern border of Lebanon, of course, I think is much more, if I dare to say, concerning, because it's more fluid, it is less easy to predict, and yet the LAF and all the other security forces have really risen to the challenge, have established themselves, and again with international support from key member states, UK, US and others. So it's a partnership, there's collaboration, but ultimately it's always about Lebanese leadership, as we're in Lebanon, but in other countries it would be the same. The region is very fluid, that's politely put, I think. It's highly volatile, risk-prone, so we're concerned, I'm starting to avoid the word next, about radicalization, pockets of extremism, lone wolf attacks you can hardly ever predict and difficult to prevent. We see it in Europe, we might see it here. So we're living in a dangerous neighborhood, and despite all that, Lebanon, the Lebanese have done remarkably well. But it's not something to be taken for granted. That's always been my message. It's by default at times, not by design, that collectively we're able to sort of ride the tide. So let's invest more and try to do even better. I'm expressing hope.
Is it a Lebanese stability, like internal Lebanese stability, or is it more this international umbrella that we hear about?
Yeah, that international umbrella, I only hear about in Lebanon, so it's interesting. I think there is international support for Lebanon, as demonstrated through a number of Security Council resolutions, presidential statements, and of course, first and foremost now, the international support group. It's international support, and important countries in the region express continued interest and make an active contribution to the stability of the country. But above all, every country, Lebanon is sovereign, is independent. It is Lebanon's own political actions that ultimately can reinforce its stability through dialogue, through implementation of the Babda Declaration. I think that's a cornerstone for us as international community. Stability in the south, investments in the LAF, but also the economy. Security and stability can never be seen divorced from progress on the economic front, the social side, meeting citizen demands. The state and the citizens cannot be separate, they are one.
Well, it's good you mentioned Babda Declaration, because I have a political talk show and I didn't hear a Lebanese official talking about it for a really long time. Maybe President Sleiman is the only one who reminds people of Babda Declaration. But I want to ask you about the implementation of Resolution 1701.
Yes.
Where are we on this implementation?
A lot of areas, I think, are not yet fulfilled. They are known. Rajar, Sheba, violations in terms of Israeli overflights, obviously Hezbollah self-declared military build-up, assumptions of availability of military arsenal. So when it comes to looking at the lens of 1701 in terms of stability and absence of direct hostilities with a risk to escalation, that is, I think, a continued work in positive progress, but there are so many areas of 1701 that we will have to try to continue to work with the parties to achieve a change. UNIFIL is very active, of course, on the operational front. It monitors work in the tripartite commission that meets, I believe, every month right now between the different parties to look at practical measures that can be taken to arrive at a change is all important, but the fundamentals of most resolutions are, of course, at political decisions. Now, a lot has changed since 1701 was adopted, and if we look again at Lebanon now and the region. So we are also obviously very clearly focused on maintaining the stability and avoiding any risk of escalation unintended. Both parties say they're very committed to the stability of the South as well, and obviously we want to keep it that way. There's a lot of engagement by the UN, myself, other colleagues, but myself as the special representative with the parties, and if there's any sense or concern we have, we engage actively, but that's also an effort of continued dialogue. You don't see it, you don't certainly read about it in Lebanese media, but that is a continuous act of communication, talking, and quiet work by UNIFIL when it comes to the South.
Confronting terrorism looks like the biggest challenge right now the whole world is facing. What is the role of the UN in this regard?
Yeah, terrorism, it's true, it gives us sometimes, if you look at media reporting, when you look at the sheer terror, when you look at the excessive and gross violations of human rights, particularly in the region, committed in the name of religion, falsely put, needless to say, movements that just spring up. I think we are still at a loss on how to tackle it properly. The security side of the apparatus is always clearer. We'll have to contain, we have to arrest, we have to detect, all that is needed. But I think we also need to do a lot more when it comes to the social, the softer side, which is hearts and minds, education, jobs, unemployment. That doesn't explain why, for instance, Western young adolescents or teenagers and others travel from a comfortable town, let's say in the Netherlands or the UK, to go and fight global jihad. Not everything is explained, but where we know there is exclusion, alienation, disenfranchisement, we need to do a lot more, because the narrative provided by radical groups can sometimes be compelling to some, and we cannot lose that part of the population. So it's actually about fundamental human rights, protection, and equal opportunities for all, be they citizens or be they stateless.
Do you have concerns about any, let's say, clashes within the Security Council when it comes to what's happening in Syria and the Russian involvement right now, the military Russian involvement?
Yeah. As you know, the Syria file in the Council from day one has been highly contested, and actually when I led the disarmament mission in Syria, it was the only dossier on which the Council members had unity, and there was unity of purpose, and there was a unique voice. It also showed when the Council is united and drives and helps drive an agenda and implementation, the impossible can be achieved. So I think it'll be very healthy, it'll be critical for some unity to be re-established and to try to have that reflected in the Council and then by the actions that follow. I think obviously the debate in the Council is always one of exchange, different positions by member states, but lives are at stake now more than ever before, and very much also I think the vibrancy and future of this region, but above all Syrian lives and that of the well-being of its neighbors.
Let's have a break, a short one, and then we'll continue. We have more questions about the vacuum in Lebanon and about your role in the humanitarian crisis that Lebanon is facing right now.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back.